Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and I'll be your host. And today I'm speaking with Adam Rosen about increasing your sales with cold email outreach. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Becky. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about this topic. I know everybody gets emails every day, and if we can use it in a more use, this process in a more strategic way for sales, that's fantastic. But first, Adam, I would love to hear more about how you became a digital nomad and your background. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, well, I started my entrepreneurial journey by I started my first company right out of college. I had that first company for about 5 years, and I sold that company back in 2019. And the reason why I bring that up is because my first startup was the complete opposite of a digital nomad journey. Instead, it was on most weeks, 7 days a week in the office, and especially in the winter. For anyone who knows Boston, cold winters in the office. But then when I started this company, my newest venture, email outreach company, my co-founder at the time was already traveling abroad. All of my employees have always been all remote. And I traveled, met up with my business partner who was in Florence, Italy at the time, and haven't looked back since. So I've been traveling as a digital nomad while building this company for about 2.5 years, since November of 2021.
Oh, that's fantastic. And would you like to share with the listeners where you are now?
Yeah, right now I'm in Hawaii, so I'm living on Oahu in Hawaii, and I've been here for about 2 months already, and I'll be here for another 6 weeks or so.
When you told me you're in Hawaii, I was like, that is the true nomad dream. And the fact that you used to live in Boston with all of those cold winters, I'm so happy for you that you've been able to make this transition.
Yeah, I'm scared of the cold, so it's at this point, if I can avoid a winter, I will do it 10 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I did the same. I left my winter and I'm currently in Vietnam. And so I understand that completely. All right. So I'm wondering with this traveling that you started doing, what are some of your favorite countries that you've been to?
You know what? Every country I've been to has its own has a special place in my heart. So there's so many, but Italy is always a place that I go back to. I spent a lot of time in Italy, so I definitely have a soft spot for Italy. I had a great time in Israel, so Israel is another one that holds a special part in my heart, and a few other countries too that are a little more under the radar per se. Montenegro, I was there for a few months this past summer, and that was an absolute blast. I did spend a little bit of time in Croatia there too. So many to choose from though. France, I always have a great time over there between Paris or the south of France. So really, I know it's not the best answer, but every country does offer something different and unique and a different culture and community. So each place I had a great time in.
I'm hearing a bit of a food theme with Italy and France. Is food something that really draws you to countries, or what about these countries in particular makes you attracted to some of them more than others?
Yeah, I would say more as a whole culture. Now the food, of course, I don't think the food gets much better than what Italy and France has to offer, and wine too. I'm a big wine drinker. I would say a real wine connoisseur, but I don't think I'm as much of an expert as I'm sure a lot of your audience is. So I like good food and I like good wine, but for me, it's more about the people. And some of those countries I named specifically, I just feel like the people were so welcoming. They were open to me being there, wanted to introduce me to their culture. So for me, a lot of it is around the people. And again, I feel like every place I've been to, though, the people have been so nice, so welcoming, so open. And I'm so grateful for that too, because you never know when you're going into someone else's country, how they're going to react to having you there. And I've been very blessed that I've met so many amazing people in each spot that I've been to.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely the people that bring you back. I totally understand that. All right. So I'm curious. This is I think you said your second startup that you're working on now. And how did you get into cold email outreach, which I know is the focus of your current company?
Yeah, in my first startup, there was a million things that we did wrong. And while we were acquired back in 2019, now it wasn't for the acquisition that we all dreamed of, because there were certain things as a startup we just couldn't quite get right. But the one thing we did get right was cold email outreach. So we were able to always get a great batch of new customers to work with us and to implement our technology within their organization. companies like Bank of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman Sachs, a lot of these huge brands would work with us. And how we got just about all of them as a customer was through cold email outreach. So when I sold that company in 2019, I started to do a lot of work with startups. And one of those startups I was advising just said, "Hey, man, we're struggling to get meetings on the books. Can you talk to my head of sales?" And when I talked to her, I saw that they had a gap with their cold email outreach. I called up my co-founder of that previous startup and my current co-founder as well. I said, "Hey, let's see if we can do something for these guys." And long story short, we've been doing this now for 2.5 years where we're doing cold email for startups to get them on more sales appointments.
Wow, I love how you just saw that opportunity and you could build something from it. I think people listening to this, like, always be on the lookout for those things because you never know. And like you said, also leveraging your previous expertise.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all, no matter what your role is, no matter what your past experience is, we all learn so much. And a lot of times we don't realize how much we have learned and what skills we've been able to develop. And there's always opportunities out there. And as long as our eyes are open and we're willing to take the learning curve of building something new, there's always opportunities. We just got to find how we can give value to folks and give value to companies. If we could do that, we could build a business around it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's dive into this. What are some tips that can help people who are considering using cold email marketing or outreach? And how can we really stand out in someone's very overflooded inbox?
Oh, you are spot on about that, Becky, because right now there's a stat I read where we get on average about 121 emails a day and we ignore about 111 of them. So the truth is there's a lot of noise out there. So we have to figure out how we can stand out. But the reality is, really, with any marketing medium, at this point, there's a ton of noise. The last stat I read said that we get on average 8,000 ads per day. So we're overwhelmed. We're inundated with ads, no matter if it's email, if we're scrolling through Instagram, if we're watching TV, like there's always going to be ads that are trying to get our attention. So we always have to find out how we can stand out. Now, in the cold email world specifically, there have been some drastic changes that have taken place, especially in the last 6 months or so. So, without getting too in the weeds, there was a big acquisition between Google Domains and Squarespace, which happened in September. Once that happened, the cold email game basically got completely turned on its head. So, some of the basic stuff that everybody needs to do now. Number one, you have to set up your email infrastructure properly. And what do I mean by that? Gone are the days we can set up one domain and one or two email accounts and mass blast a bunch of emails and land into people's inboxes. That doesn't work anymore. At this point, if you want to do any type of mass cold outreach, you have to create, call it 5 email domains. You have to create, call it 20, 30, 50 email inboxes. You have to set up those inboxes properly. Things like the DKIM, the SPF, all these DMARC, all these different settings to basically give your email inbox the registration sticker to increase the likelihood you end up in the inbox. So that's number one, is you have to set up the infrastructure properly, which is so much more complicated than it used to be. Number two is you have to write good copy. We all get a bunch of emails. So many of them are just, let's be honest, crappy copy. It's clearly not personalized. It's poor grammar. There's different size font. It's long, doesn't get to the point. There's no clear call to action. So number two is we got to have good copy. We created a pretty intense chat GPT prompt that allows us to rewrite copy at scale for our customers. But the same structure that we use is what anyone can use. When you think about writing an email, what's the purpose of the email? So purpose, the first line. What's the problem you solve in about one line? What's your solution? About one line in that. What's your social proof? What great customers have you worked with so that you can build up some of that trust? And then what's your call to action? Hey, do you have 15 minutes to chat? So something simple like that. And then, of course, you got to follow up. It takes on average about 4 emails to get a meeting set up. So you got to follow up, but you have to follow up in the right way. So those are 2 of the biggest things. And then number 3 is just when you are sending these emails, how are you analyzing if it's working or if you need to change your copy or change your ICP, ideal customer profile. And then when you do get these responses, how are you handling them? How are you scheduling the meetings? How are you replying to them to make sure that they book the meeting? So those are some of the basics to make sure you can do email effectively, because if not, we really don't stand a chance in the game anymore.
The fact that like the acronyms that you dropped, that I didn't know any of them, it's already telling me there's a whole lot we don't know about our email settings and about how to get into someone's inbox. Because from what you're describing, it is still possible. Of course, I'm getting a lot of emails every day. I don't know how these people got my email address, and they're in. But I assume the spam filters are also getting stronger. So we need to be even more mindful of how to get in. And I wanted to ask you about some subject lines, because I know, how do you even get people to open these emails that they get? So can you answer this for me? Should we use capital letters in our subject lines? I see that. Is it better to throw some of those in there or not?
My approach is always be direct and to the point. So a couple of those things. So number one, I never want to be bait and switchy. It is one of my biggest pet peeves when someone pulls a bait and switch. So basically they tell you something with either a catchy headline, so subject line to just get you to open it, but then their body of the email is not related to the subject. Or they say, hey, can you, like, for example, we'd love to feature you in this article. And then you go to try to be featured in this article because, wow, who wouldn't want to be featured in an article? Then they're like, oh, by the way, this is going to be $5,000 for you to be featured in this article. So trying to stay away from bait and switch type material. My focus is always on being direct. So the best subject lines we've seen is whether it's capital letters or all lowercase, it really doesn't matter. I just focus on what's good grammar. And then I just want to be direct. So for example, like if I were to send a cold email to somebody trying to buy my services, email outreach company, we do cold email outreach for startups. I would say something like request for phone appointment regarding more sales appointments. So something simple and direct we've seen work best. And also we've seen piss off the least amount of people possible. Because if you are just direct, if you say, hey, here's what we do, is it interesting to you? If not, please let me know and I'll stop following up. That shows you respect the people, the recipient, you respect their inbox, and you're just trying to help. And if it's not helpful, you don't want to keep bothering them.
Yeah, no, that's really great. So keep those subject lines short, to the point, and honest, like you said. Should you put emojis in there? I see these people throwing emojis in subject lines, and I will admit, sometimes that catches my eye more for a second.
Yeah, I think with stuff like that, it's really just about, is it in alignment with your brand? For me, that's not in alignment with my brand. We don't do that for our customers. We don't put images. Like you'll see some people do like a meme or a GIF in an email with like someone holding like a cup of coffee up with your name on it. And it's like a cute way to get someone's attention. For me, I don't like that stuff. It's like trying to, again, be a gimmick to get me to meet with you versus like show you have something of value to offer me. And if I believe it's valuable and you did it in a good way, hey, maybe I'll take the time to chat with you. So for me, I try to stay away from emojis. I try to stay away from, GIFs or memes in an email. I try to just be direct, but that's again for cold outreach. If you have a newsletter, that's a little bit different. That's a warm, curated email list of people that are interested in your service. So that's where you could get a little more cute, a little more fun, and maybe use more emojis. I personally like to stay away from it.
Yeah, like you said, different clients, different reasons you might use it. If you're writing some kind of, I would imagine, let's say a Japanese kawaii, email, maybe you want to throw some cute things in there, but yes, it's all different for
Exactly.
different clients. Yeah. So I am wondering, would love some real life examples here. Can you give us some examples of how that cold email outreach worked for you? And maybe one of the most creative methods that you've ever implemented successfully to get someone's attention and get them on the phone?
It's a really good question. In terms of how it's worked for me, well, just the most simple is almost every customer we got in my previous tech startup, again, Bank of America, Amazon, Apple, Goldman Sachs, we got through cold email. In my current company, we've had over 50, full service customers. Over 30 of them have come from us doing our own cold email outreach. So we wouldn't have a business right now if we didn't do cold email, even just to get our own customers, let alone for our best performing customer of ours. And they're a small shop. They're about a 10 employee shop. They made over $1 million this past year from leads we generated for them that turned into paying customers. So, $1 million, that's a heck of a lot of money really for any company, but especially for a 10-person shop. now to go into your question around like creative ways to leverage cold email, we call this the X factor is this thing we call like the advice route. So in my previous tech startup, we had two six-figure customers. One of the customers, one of our biggest customers we got was also MasterCard. How we got those customers as an example was through this advice method. So with MasterCard, it's an interesting one because we cold emailed now their former CEO, Ajay Banga, who's the current president of World Bank. And we emailed him with this advice approach, which is essentially, hey, we're young founders. We're looking to do X, Y, and Z. Would you be open to a 15-minute call to give us advice? He was incredibly generous with his very busy schedule. He ended up getting on multiple phone calls with us. He ended up passing us to his chief human resource officer, and then they bought our software. Again, our two previous six-figure clients we got on my last startup came from asking for advice. They liked what we had to offer. They ended up buying our software. So this advice approach, I recommend really for anybody, but especially for those just getting started. There's that saying that says, if you ask for advice, you'll get money. If you ask for money, you'll get advice. So people want to help those that want to learn. It feels good when we're the expert, right? And as long as the other person is genuine in asking for advice, we're probably going to want to find a way to give back to them and to help them. And if there's an opportunity to buy their service or software product, whatever it is, we'll want to do it. So the advice approach we've seen get a lot of meetings with the highest up at some of the best companies in the world.
That is incredible. And I wonder, were you able to use, this story? Could you publicly talk about it, and use it on your website or a testimonial? It sounds like, you get advice from these high-level people. That's going to help your sales grow exponentially in the future as well if you keep collecting these different testimonials.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a win-win because you get to learn from people that are probably further along than you. And then, hey, there's a chance they become a customer or they refer you to somebody. So it's a really great way, again, especially for people just starting out, to get on the phone with some high up folks that can, again, give advice and potentially become a customer.
So, okay, I want to illuminate this part a little bit more. So how did you reach someone that high level? Was it like, did you try many, many times with cold emails to many different companies and then just a few of them replied, or what was the success rate there? And did you know someone who got you closer to him, for example?
Yeah, so for MasterCard, it was just a cold email to Ajay Banga. We didn't know anybody there. No one gave us like a warm intro to him. I don't remember how many follow-ups we sent, if we sent any follow-ups. I wouldn't be surprised if we did send any follow-ups. I don't remember if that was a one-off email or if it was more of a mass email, but I can say we've done in a lot of cases for ourselves, but also for our customers. We'll do mass outreach too. We'll reach out to, call it CEOs of companies with 1,000 employees or more asking for advice. And if you reach out to 10,000 people, all 10,000 people aren't going to get back to you. But hey, if 20 people want to chat from that list or 10 people, that's a home run. So part of mass outreach is that you have to do it in bulk to get the results, because not everyone's going to respond. Not everyone's going to take the meeting. So that's why you want to be very tight on who are your ideal people you want to speak to. Because if you just spray it to everybody, you might get on the phone with an entry-level person or an intern. You don't want that. So you want to be very tight on, here's the title I want to reach out to. Here are the types of companies I want to speak to. So at least when people respond, they're most likely a part of your ideal customer profile, your ICP.
Okay, really good to know. How are you getting these emails? How did you get the email of AJ Banga? Like, I know LinkedIn could be a really powerful tool, but yeah, when you're mass emailing, where are you getting these email addresses?
Yeah, there's many tools out there. Like there's plenty of tools that would scrape off of LinkedIn. Now though, you could use tools like Zoom Info, although they could be pretty pricey. So there's a lot of these data tools you can get. The one that we now use a lot of, and it's just so much cheaper than any other tool that's existed out there, is tools like Apollo and Instantly. So you can get a lot of contacts, and high quality contacts for that matter, for pennies, literal pennies, when it used to cost $1 plus per contact. So you can use LinkedIn scrapers, you can use tools like Instantly and Apollo, or you could use tools like Zoom Info. So there's plenty of different ways you can get data, contact information, and make sure that it's verified contact information so that it, again, has a higher likelihood of ending up in the inbox.
Fantastic. Okay, now I'm wondering, when you help clients, you've mentioned some really high level clients. Do you work with only larger organizations at this point? Do you work with just individuals? And how do you help them? Is it ongoing, or do you just do a bunch of setup at the beginning and put things in place and then move on to the next client? I'm wondering how that works for you.
Ongoing. So our bread and butter to start was always startups. I've never had a job at a corporate company. I've always been a startup guy. I've done a lot of work with startups and small businesses. So it's always been the soft spot that I've had. So that was a lot of our start was around working with startups. Now we're starting to focus more on larger companies for our full service, where we just basically do it all for them. But we created a mastermind where we show people from A to Z how they could do this on their own. It's an AI, cold email, and sales mastermind, teaching people how they could do them on their own. And there's a lot of great early stage startups that are involved there. So it's a lot lower cost than our full service offering, and it allows them to get the results. And with also us as like a cold email advisor for them too. So it's multiple live calls throughout the month. There's a Slack community, and then a video library showing them how to do exactly what we do, but do it on their own.
Fantastic. And I assume I don't know much about the business. I just know what I receive in my inbox. Are you also doing automations where, like you said, sometimes 4 times someone needs to hear from you before they book a meeting? So I imagine you're also setting up the email automation sequence for clients.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the automation is key. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I'm wondering, so what is the future? Oh, sorry, you mentioned AI. That's what I wanted to talk about. So AI, you've already said you have a prompt that you've used and it's really powerful. Where do you see, or how do you see AI changing this game? Because already, some people barely look at their emails anymore. They're just looking at WhatsApp, or they're doing direct messages now. So how do you see your game changing in the future?
How do I see our specific game, or like the cold email game in general?
I would say, well, let's start with the cold email game in general, and then how that's going to change your company.
And it's probably one combined. It's probably one the same, I should say. So I believe it's going to be a lot more around quality. So what do I mean by that? In the old days, and I'm talking 6, 7, 8 months ago, you could get away with having, one domain and one or two email accounts, and that was okay enough to get by, as long as you had good copy, good systems, etc. Nowadays, it's not like that. And part of the reason why, my hunch, is because of tools that I just mentioned, tools like Instantly. They've made it so easy for anybody to get into the cold email game, to create domains or to hook your domains into them, to get lists, to send emails, and to do it at mass. There's become a lot of noise in the cold email world, and a lot of, just speaking bluntly, a lot of bad noise, like a lot of just crap that's out there. So I see the future because of AI, because of tools like Instantly, and it's only the beginning. It's only going to get bigger and easier as time goes on. I believe there's going to be a higher emphasis on quality. So quality in setting up your domain infrastructure, your email infrastructure, quality on email copy, on personalization, on things like spin tax, where basically you send out a different email, your email copy gets changed for every email that gets sent. And there's ways to do that. Ways like, how are you monitoring these inboxes? Are you getting back to people, or are you just mass email blasting? So I think there's going to be a higher emphasis on quality. I think when you are quality, they're going to reward you by sending you into the inbox. And I think people that put out low quality are going to scrub from the game very quickly. So how are we going to stay ahead of it? We just continue to try to learn how we can be high quality. It's as simple as that. Everything we've been doing over the last several months hasn't necessarily been easy. It has been a headache for myself and the entire team, but we are so much better today in February of 2024 than we were in September of 2023, because we've been forced to take our game up. So I just think there's going to be a big emphasis on quality, and anyone who isn't the highest of quality in cold email just might as well not do it, because they're not going to get any results.
Do you see email starting to just be used less and less by people? I'm worried about that too, if I were going to be setting up that as one of my main ways to reach people, because a lot of times now I'm just talking on WhatsApp.
Well, I don't know if email will ever be replaced. If you just look at the data, it's continuing to increase year over year. Email usage continues to increase. So I don't see email ever going away. However, I do think there's going to be significant changes to inboxes, like even maybe more payment. Like I think there's going to be a bigger opportunity for places like Google or Yahoo to even accept money from senders in order to end up in an inbox. I think there's going to be some maybe radical changes to email as we know it today in the future, but I do not think that email is going anywhere. Um, but I do think it's going to be changed dramatically. And I think this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I just watched a video by Casey Neistat yesterday wearing the Apple Vision Quest and walking around New York City and just seeing how he was interfacing. I mean, I know email and how we're going to view it is also going to change, and it's going to be really exciting to see how we can, like you said, stay ahead of the game, stay really relevant, and get people's attention.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's just going to be how do we continue to innovate and make it most useful for everybody. If our inboxes are easy to digest and valuable, that's going to be a win for everybody. If it's filled with a bunch of clutter, it's not going to be a place we want to be.
Yes. And I hope that, tools to kind of like filter our inbox and get rid of what they label as spam are not going to become so powerful that we also have to figure that out all the time. But I know it already exists to an extent. So hopefully there are ways to always stay ahead of the game. And Adam, I do want to thank you for giving us so much knowledge and insight into this particular like field, because I have to say, like, I never really thought much about how the emails are getting in and how to best reach people. So I hope the listeners and viewers are going to find this really valuable. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us that I haven't covered?
Well, I know you have an amazing community of folks that travel the world and are digital nomads and are working. So yeah, for anyone that's interested, I just, a lot of what we're trying to build now, because a lot of what I do is again, travel in the world as I build my business. I need both things. I want to explore the most beautiful parts in the world, but I also want to grow professionally and grow with my company. If I were just doing one of them, I wouldn't be a fulfilled person. And I know, I'm sure a lot of your audience feels the same, because I know a lot of people reach out to me saying, hey, I want to travel the world, but I don't want to sacrifice my professional growth. And that's a lot of the stuff that I'm focused on now, not just with the email outreach company, but I recently bought the nomadcloud.com, which is a newsletter for digital nomads to help them kind of have their cake and eat it too. So it's something that we're deeply focused on, as I know you are too, Becky. And I'm just excited to help as many people as possible to make money, grow their business, grow professionally, but while also exploring wherever they want to be in the beautiful parts that the world has to offer.
Yeah, knowing that they don't have to sacrifice the growth and the connections would mean so much to so many people still, like you said, looking for a way to like liberate themselves and feel like it's okay to be out there traveling the world.
Exactly. You don't have to just get by to be a nomad. I feel like a lot of the digital nomad world, at least some of the stereotypes that I've seen, is it's just to get by. It's just to pay for that hostel. It's just to pay for that backpacking trip. But my thing is, I want people to be able to experience as much abundance as they desire. If you just want to, get by, or if you want to be in a hostel, great. But for some of those people that want to live abundantly while traveling the world and while growing professionally, like that's a lot of what we want to stand on, and those types of people we want to be able to support as well.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I am starting to think more and more that, having the ability to be mobile and move where you need to and have friends in many different places is really valuable, as we see like, different seasons, maybe in the winter, like you mentioned in Boston, you're not so productive or you're just not feeling motivated, creative with your business. But if you could go to Oahu or something for a few months and work on your business there, maybe even the time zone is going to be more beneficial for some of your clients. It's a powerful thing to access, and it might be even more valuable going forward with weather and just things happening in the world.
Yeah, be where you're energized, be where you could be most productive. And if that means from January to April, you're in Oahu, and from April to June, you're in Bali, if June to wherever you're in this place, wherever you are most energized, wherever you could be most productive, wherever you're most happy, that's probably where you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Adam, if people want to follow you, where can they go?
On social media, I'm most active on Instagram and LinkedIn, and it's just at Adam I Rosen. On my website's eocworks.com. My email is adam@eocworks.com. And then the nomadcloud.com is the newsletter that we purchased to help digital nomads that want to have their cake and eat it too.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us. Enjoy Hawaii. And I look forward to hopefully meeting you in person, and maybe some of our community will as well in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, Becky, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone that gave us a listen, and feel free to reach out. I'd love to connect with you all.
Thank you so much.